Welcome to QuiZone. Today, we will share about the 20 years into the 21st century, how many truly communist countries remain. Let's start. The term communism has been a topic of debate and transformation since it was first introduced by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels in the 19th century. While the ideology aimed to create a classless society where the means of production are collectively owned and controlled, the practical implementation of communism has varied significantly across different nations. In the 21st century, very few countries can be considered truly communist in the traditional sense. This article explores which countries still adhere to communist principles and how they have evolved over time. Communism, as an ideology, advocates for the abolition of private property, class distinctions, and the establishment of a society where wealth and resources are distributed equally among its members. The ultimate goal of communism is to create a stateless and classless society where the government withers away, and people collectively manage their affairs. However, achieving this utopian ideal has proven to be challenging in practice. Several countries have, at different points in their history, adopted communism as their guiding ideology. These countries include the Soviet Union, USSR. Perhaps the most iconic example of a communist state, the USSR was founded in 1922 after the Bolshevik Revolution. Led by Vladimir Lenin and later Joseph Stalin, the Soviet Union implemented a command economy and a one-party system that lasted until its dissolution in 1991. China, the People's Republic of China, established in 1949 under the leadership of Mao Zedong, adopted communism as its guiding ideology. China's version of communism, often referred to as Maoism, involved mass campaigns, collectivization, and the Cultural Revolution. Although China has evolved economically, it maintains a one-party system under the Chinese Communist Party, CCP. Cuba. In 1959, Fidel Castro led the Cuban Revolution, overthrowing the government and establishing a communist regime. Cuba has maintained its communist system, despite facing economic challenges and isolation from the United States. North Korea, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, North Korea, founded in 1948 under Kim Il-sung, embraced communism and developed a highly centralized and authoritarian regime. It remains one of the most isolated and secretive countries in the world. Vietnam. After gaining independence from French colonial rule, Vietnam became a communist country in 1954. Although it has implemented economic reforms in recent years, the Communist Party of Vietnam maintains tight political control. Laos. The Lao People's Democratic Republic adopted communism in 1975. The Lao People's Revolutionary Party has held a monopoly on power since then. These countries have historically adhered to communist principles, but the extent to which they still do so varies significantly in the 21st century. While the countries mentioned above have historical roots in communism, many have undergone significant transformations, adopting market-oriented economic reforms while maintaining their one-party political systems. These changes reflect the complexities and challenges of implementing communism in the modern world. China. China is perhaps the most notable example of a country that has evolved its communist system. After the death of Mao Zedong in 1976, China began a series of economic reforms under Deng Xiaoping, leading to the development of a market-oriented economy. Despite these economic changes, China's political system remains under the control of the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, which maintains a monopoly on political power. Vietnam. like China, Vietnam has introduced market-oriented reforms, commonly referred to as Doi Moi, in the late 1980s. These reforms have led to significant economic growth while maintaining the one-party system of the Communist Party of Vietnam. Laos, too, has implemented economic liberalization while retaining its one-party system. The Lao People's Revolutionary Party continues to control political power. Cuba. While Cuba has made some economic reforms in recent years, it remains a one-party state under the Communist Party of Cuba. The Cuban government has taken steps to open up its economy to limited private enterprise while maintaining socialist principles. North Korea. North Korea's regime under Kim Jong-un remains highly secretive and isolated. The country continues to adhere to communist ideology, and there have been no significant economic or political reforms. These countries have adapted their communist systems to address economic challenges and changing global dynamics while preserving their one-party political control. As a result, they represent a hybrid model of communism and socialism. There are several countries where the status of communism is less clear, often due to political changes, internal conflicts, or a lack of information. Some of these countries include Nepal. Nepal has experienced shifts between monarchy and communism in its recent history. While the Nepal Communist Party held power for a time, the country's political situation is fluid, making it challenging to determine its current status. Venezuela. Venezuela has experienced significant political turmoil and economic challenges in recent years. The ruling United Socialist Party of Venezuela has socialist and communist elements but operates in a complex political landscape. Zimbabwe. While Zimbabwe's ruling party, ZANU-PF, has socialist leanings, its political and economic situation is marked by instability and uncertainty. Nicaragua. Nicaragua has a history of Sandinista rule and socialist policies. The country's political climate is still evolving, with periodic elections and changes in leadership. Eritrea. Eritrea gained independence from Ethiopia in 1991 and has been ruled by the People's Front for Democracy and Justice, PFDJ. The political and economic situation in Eritrea is highly controlled, but information is limited. These countries have varying degrees of adherence to communist principles, and their political situations are often in flux. The concept of communism has evolved over time, with many countries moving away from strict Marxist-Leninist ideals. While some nations maintain one-party communist systems, they have also introduced market-oriented economic reforms to adapt to the challenges of the modern world. Others have experienced political changes, and the status of communism is unclear or disputed. In the 21st century, truly communist countries, in the traditional sense of the term, are rare. Instead, we see a spectrum of political and economic systems that incorporate elements of socialism and communism alongside market-driven reforms. The legacy of communism persists, but its practical application has undergone significant transformations, reflecting the complex dynamics of global politics and economics.